So, hey guys, and welcome to our next session. So, today's session is going to be on pricing. So, in the previous session, we saw how marketing can be done, particularly to attract customers. In what sort of ways can customers be attracted? Now, going ahead from the customer point of view or customer driven marketing, in our session today, we're going to look at how pricing affects a customer's perception. How can we price a particular product? What factors should we look at before choosing a price? We will look at all these factors and more in our session today. So, to begin with, let us not look at pricing or pricing strategies, but let us look at price to begin with. Now, price is a term which defines a value. For any product or service, we say that there is a price for it. So, price essentially is a word which is generally derived from economics or finance that says that a particular product or a service has a value of some amount. Now, this price may be in terms of cash, this price may be in terms of anything else. Earlier on, there were barter system which moved on to something else and came up a currency system. So we are talking about price in terms of any product or service that a company is providing. A customer would pay some amount of money saying that this is the value of this product or service. So I am providing you this money as the value for it. So this is exactly what a price means. Now, pricing happens when a company decides what should be the value for a product or a service. Or, in other words, when a company decides how much should a customer pay. In other words, how much should a customer provide in terms of value to buy a product or to access a service. Now that we know what a price is, which is essentially a value for any product or service, let us look at the concept of pricing. Now, before we go on to pricing, we have to know that if there is a product or a service which the customer thinks is overvalued, or in other words, is having a price which is much higher than what it should have, the customer may not buy it. Or the customer may, on the other hand, think it's a product that is a luxury product. On the other hand, when a product is undervalued or when the value for the product is lesser than what a customer perceives its value may be, then the customer may think it's either of low quality or it's of low price, which is an advantage. So when it is overpriced or underpriced, overvalued or undervalued, a customer's perception may differ depending on the brand positioning, depending on the product, and various other factors. To look at all these factors, let us look at what exactly is pricing. Now, pricing technically is the decision making process by which a value is created for a product or service. So a company will go through a lot of research to figure out what exactly should be the price of a product or a service. So this research, this decision making process of figuring out what should be the price or what should be the value for a particular product or service is called pricing. Now, there are a lot of factors that every company considers when it comes up to pricing. Now, to break this down to the simplest example, let's take a very simple example of a restaurant. Now, when we talk about a restaurant, let us assume that there is a person who owns a restaurant which is rented. So every month that person has to pay rent. There has to be electricity fee that the person has to pay on a monthly basis. The person has to pay for, let's say, charges for, assume, um, the cooking bills, gas bills, or the groceries and packaging and so on. So there are so many things that affect the pricing. To top it off, the restaurant owner may need to hire people to work for him, a chef or a cashier or any other person required within the restaurant. So when all of these are chosen, the cost must be, or the price or the value of a product, food or whatever it could be, must be decided by knowing whether the restaurant is paying more money in spending for the products instead of earning. If the company feels, or in this case, if the restaurant feels, we are spending more money on salaries, on rent, on electricity, on groceries, and everything than what we are earning, then their pricing is wrong. If their pricing goes too high, then people won't come up. Even then, their pricing is wrong. So there is a specific small space where the price has to land on, and that is where a company may hit gold. So pricing is not something that a company can easily just decide. It goes through a lot of research and a lot of decision making. So one of the basic factors that come up is cost. If the cost of making the product is more than the price, there's no point. The cost must be less. So this is often called cost-based pricing, which we will look at later on. But to understand this in basics, let us go back to the restaurant example. Let us assume the restaurant has some fixed costs. Fixed as in those costs will not keep changing on a monthly basis, or those costs will not keep changing no matter how many people come up to the restaurant. Whether 5 people come or 5,000 people come up to the restaurant, the rent is the same. The salary for the employees is the same. These are some fixed costs that can be taken up. Now, apart from fixed costs, the other thing is variable costs. Variable costs are costs that do vary with production or sales level. Now, this could be something like packaging costs, which may vary from time to time, or the grocery cost may change, electricity bill costs may change, or let's say, for example, there could be some unexpected costs. All of these come up under variable costs. So when a company adds their fixed costs as well as variable costs, that is when they will get an idea of what is the total cost for the entire production or sales. So once a company gets to find out what could be the total cost, they need to price it slightly higher than the total cost so they can incur profit and continue their business. So this is just one example of a factor behind this. Another example is cost as a function of production experience. We often see this as, in example, let us take this case. The moment a company starts creating a product, initially the price will be high because they may need to buy certain hardware, they may need to buy certain skills, they may need to learn certain skills by paying for it. uh, in terms of buying skills, they may need to purchase some other equipments and so on. So initial cost to uh, create any product or service is always high. But when a company starts to increase their production over time, when the company starts to learn better and company starts to have an experience about that product, the price of production keeps reducing. In other words, cost of productions keep reducing the more a company is experienced in development of a product, or in other words, production of any product or service. So this is often called as cost as production of, or cost of production experience, or cost as a function of production experience. So by this, a company can decide that initially the prices of production will be high, but over time, when we learn or when we don't have to invest in other skills or don't have to invest in other equipments, the average cost will fall. So this is just one case that a few companies can look into as well. So other factor that companies should look into is something called break-even analysis. Now let us take an example. A company has taken a debt to start their industry, or let's say for example, a restaurant owner has taken a debt or a loan to start the restaurant. So once the restaurant owner begins the process of running the restaurant, he still owes the debt. He still owes whether interest in debt or whatever it could be. So he may have to pay it back in a short time, or he may not have to pay it back in a short time. So depending on how quickly the owners or how quickly the company should get back the money they have invested in. Are the company okay in spending 2 to 3 years to get back what they invested in? Or is the company looking to get back what they have invested in within 1 year? Based on this, they can opt for a pricing strategy as well. So, a lot of these factors play an important role in deciding the pricing of a product or a service as well. Now, there are some other factors that are needed to be considered as well. One is customer perception. If a customer perceives or believes that this product is not worth much money, no matter how high it is priced or how low it is priced, a lot of customers may not be willing to buy it. But when a customer values a product very much, then they may be willing to buy it at a very high price as well. So customer perception matters a lot for pricing of a product. So customer perception often depends on the brand positioning, the recognition, and many other factors. There could be other factors within the company, like hiring more people or buying more equipment. Those are internal factors. There could be external factors by looking at the market, looking at the demand, looking at the competition. So there could be all of these factors together, so that any organization can figure out what should be the price of a particular product or service. Now, once a company has decided a price, we have not gone into pricing strategy yet. That is, what kind of strategy can a company opt for to decide the price? We will look at it later on. But before that, once a company has decided a particular price for a product or service, they will look at the market as to who are they facing. Generally, types of competitions are divided into four categories: pure competition, monopolistic, oligopolistic, and pure monopoly. Let us look at what each of these types of competition mean. Now, pure competition is where there is a lot of competitions within a product. Like if you think of a simple example of, let's say, a toothpaste. There are tens of companies which sell toothpastes. So there is not a single company which has a huge impact on the market. So there are five, six, seven companies that you can name off the top of your tongue, because when we go to the shop, we look at a lot of these. It could be toothpaste, it could be soaps, it could be any biscuit packets, something like this. These are examples where customers are spoiled for choice. There is so many buyers and sellers that there is not a single organization which can have a huge impact. So this is where every organization will be selling at near equal price, so that none of them want to incur loss by increasing the price. That is pure competition. Monopolistic competition is where, in short, let me rephrase, it's a market with a lot of buyers and sellers, a lot of buyers as in customers, Lot of sellers as in companies who trade over a range of prices rather than a single market price with differentiated offers. So in other words, pure competition is where all the products are very similar, all the products are of very similar price as well. Monopolistic competition is where there are lots of different companies offering similar products, but each product is priced differently. If the products are priced differently, the customer will not be willing to buy it unless that product is differentiated. So, this is exactly what monopolistic competition does. As long as the product is differentiated, it can have a different price and be sold. Take an example. You have certain toothpastes. I'm going with this simple example. There's a regular toothpaste, there's a particular toothpaste for sensitive teeth, there's a particular toothpaste for whitening teeth, there's a particular toothpaste for some other purpose. There are a lot of different such toothpastes for different, let's say, in other words, markets or different segments. So when they start differentiating their product, they can sell it at different prices. This is monopolistic competition. That means they generally have monopoly over their own differentiation. Now, when there's a lot of other companies which enter that differentiation, it again becomes a pure competition. Now, going ahead from this, the third kind is called oligopolistic competition. This is where there are a few sellers, few companies, and it is difficult for them to enter a market because they are very sensitive to each other's pricing. That is, let's assume there are just two or three sellers for a particular kind of product. Now, those two or three sellers, whoever they are, it is very difficult for them because first up, though there are less number of sellers, the problem that they have is that any change in their product pricing will make sure that the customer will go to the other product. Let's say I sell product A, you sell product B. We are the only two sellers in the market who are selling a particular product, but mine is called product A, yours is called product B. Now, since there are only two sellers, if I increase my price, wanting to get more profit, people will shift to you because you are the only other competitor. If you increase it, people will shift to my organization or my company product. So this is how oligopolistic competition works, where both companies are very sensitive to each other's pricing and marketing strategies. And most often or than not, this is where the companies come into an agreement and equally state that whenever I increase the price, I will let you know. So these are some things that happen as well, but let us not get into those. So the other concept is called pure monopoly. This is where a market has only one seller. Now, when the market has a single seller, the company has the monopoly over the market and it can change its price to whatever it likes. This generally happens when a company has a patented product. One example for this is take a look at COVID vaccines in US. So if they are patented by one pharmaceutical industry, nobody else apart from them are to sell that particular vaccine for a period of 20 years. Now this will give them an unfair monopoly. Now the government can come out and state that even though it's a monopoly, you have to limit the price to a certain value. So this is one way that they can do in order to get it is a fair value to the customer as well. So these are the four types of competitions we have. So now, going ahead from this, let us look at the concept of pricing strategies. That is, what strategies do we have to set the price of a particular product and how a company can gain the most benefit in it and how a company can also fail in it and avoid the failure. So, the first pricing strategy that we will look at is called competitive pricing. We have looked at this in pure competition type earlier on. So competitive pricing is also called as strategic pricing. You set the price of the product of your company or of the service offered by your company by looking at what other companies are offering. A common example for this is mobile phones. Whenever you look at mobile phones, all the mobile phones with similar features are priced similarly most of the times, unless they are premium or luxury brands. So, by making your price similar to your competitors' price as well, by choosing this strategy, you are saying that a customer can go for your product instead of your competitor's product as well. So, this in short is called competitors' pricing. Now, the advantage is that you can directly go against your customer, especially if you are having a price that is lesser, if your product is priced lesser, you can directly go against a competitor by pricing it a little higher to something similar to what they are pricing. But the disadvantage here is if you're pricing a little higher than your competitor, you have to scale down your price to make it similar to your competitor's price so that you can also get a fair share of customers. So, like this, for every pricing strategy that we will look at, there are certain advantages and there are certain disadvantages as well. Let's take a common example. Let's say we have a marketing automation software that we are selling from our organization. And if all the competitors are having a price between, let's say, $20 to $40 per month for the software, we would have to price somewhere in between that. And we would also have to price it looking at whether we are offering a lot of differentiation. If it is less differentiation, we'll go to the lower end. If there is more differentiation, we'll go to the higher end. So there are all of these factors that come up. But we are looking at simple competitive pricing only. Generally, in real world, pricing is always a combination of a lot of strategies. This is just one of those strategies. Now, let us go ahead for our next strategy, which is called cost plus pricing. Now, cost plus pricing is where let's say, if we are creating a particular product, we calculate how much it takes to make that product, how much it takes to acquire raw materials, how much it takes for the cost of production, how much it takes for salaries, for rent, for electricity, overhead costs of product, of service. We calculate all of them to the added cost. Let us assume on an average, if each product costs us something like, let's say, 50 rupees or $50 to make. So when a product costs us something like 50 rupees to make, we add a percentage, that is how much profit do we want to earn. So let's say if the profit we want to earn is 50%, then of 50 rupees 50% is 25, so we will add that to the cost, that is 25 plus 50, and we will sell the product for 75 rupees. So for every product sold, we are getting 25%, sorry, 50% profit in this. So one huge advantage in cost plus pricing is, as long as we are able to sell the products of cost plus pricing method, we will always incur profit. But we cannot always sell it at that price. Your competitor may sell it at a much lower price as well. So this is where cost plus pricing goes out of the window unless you have a differentiated product or service from your competitor, unless your brand positioning is different from your competitor. So this is why previously I stated that a one single pricing strategy will never be efficient enough in a real market. You have to use a strategy of a combination of pricing methods. So the other way, before going to the other way, let's take an example. Uh, Unlike the previous example, one more example, let's say, for example, there are some shoes that our company produces. Now, to produce a pair of shoes, let's say it takes $25. And if we want to sell it for $25 more, that is, let's say we want to sell it for $50, our markup profit percentage is 100%. So for every product sold, we are getting 100% profit. But if all our competitors are selling at 30%, then this cost plus pricing does not work out. So we also need to look at the competitors. Unless whatever we are selling has a much higher luxury positioning or a better branding image, or is differentiated by stating that our product is much better than the competitor's product. So this, in short, is how cost plus pricing works. Going ahead of cost plus pricing, the next one we have is called penetration pricing. Now, generally, whenever a new company comes up to the market, it is very difficult for the new company to sell products at a higher price. The new company needs customers, the new company needs word of mouth, the new company needs to make sure that their products are used by people. So people get to know that their product exists, that their product is marketed, and their product is also an option. So, to begin doing this, some companies generally begin their product pricing at the lowest possible price. Like, let's say we just create our own organization and we start selling certain products. Let's say, for example, laptops. Now, whenever you talk about laptops, there's a condition like, okay, everyone is buying HP, Asus, and all these companies. So, if we also price our laptop at the same price, customers would never buy it because we are an unknown company compared to a recognized brand, which are offering a product at the same price. So, to make sure we show the worth of our product or our service and gain the customers' trust or faith in our organization or in our product, we can sell our laptops for a lower price initially when entering the market, so that with the lower price we can attract customers. After attracting customers, after once a customer base is built, we can then go for a moderate price or higher price, slightly shifting it little by little depending on how our company's strategy may be. This, in short, is an example of penetration strategy or penetration pricing strategy. So the next method is called with very different names. It is called demand based pricing or dynamic pricing or even customer based pricing. So this is where a company decides the price of a product depending on how customer feels about the product. If a customer's perception about a product is that it's not good, then the price will be low. If the customer's perception of the product is really good, then the price will be high. Or if the demand is low, price will be low. If the demand is high, price will be high. So there are certain such examples that we can take up. So some examples to begin with is when we looked at penetration strategy earlier on, that is also an example of customer based pricing. That is, we are pricing our product to make sure we get a customer base. Now, other examples of demand based pricing that we can take up is, let's say there is a huge demand for a certain product. Now, in this situation, let's assume for COVID pandemic that we are in, there was not a huge demand for masks of a year ago. But since then, the demand for masks has risen a lot, and so has the price. So, given the demand by the customers, dynamically the price has increased. So, customers perceive that a mask is important even if it is priced at twice or thrice the regular price. So, this is the basic concept of demand or dynamic or customer based pricing. So, going ahead of this, You can look at a few examples of this. Apart from masks, the other ones are hotels and airlines. Generally, hotels charge higher cost to stay during the weekends and lower cost to stay during the weekdays because number of people who come up during weekdays are lesser. Airlines also do something similar. Event venues also do something similar. So generally afternoon, weekday or midnight flights cost cheaper, or flights cost cheaper than weekend flights. So these are just a few examples to take up to understand how the product or service prices keep varying constantly depending on customer demand. Simple example you guys can think about: hotel prices and airline prices during weekdays and weekends. That is a day and night difference when you look at the pricing. So continuing ahead from this, there is one more kind of pricing that has come up, particularly with softwares, called freemium pricing. Premium pricing is where a company provides something to the customers, some product to the customers for free. After providing the product for the customers for free, that only will be the basic version of the product. Let's say, for example, whenever you use any app, you often would have seen, to access this feature, please buy the app. To access this particular feature, please upgrade the app. You may have seen such a part within an app, and you may have gone for buying the entire app as well if you're requiring it. So this is what is called freemium. Freemium is a combination of two words: free and premium. Premium means paid for a price, free means something that is available for free. So these software companies provide their software basic version for free, and they will state that if you want to get an upgraded version, you have to pay for it. So this could be something like free trial or limited membership or free basic package or something like that, so that customer will get used to this product and they would want it and they will buy it. An example for this that you can take up is something that we often look at as Spotify. Spotify free is available where you can listen to any songs online for free, but the free version has advertisements, you cannot listen offline, and it gives you a lower quality audio. But for a premium with some amount of pricing per month, you get all the features. So this is where they try to get customers first to their app to get the basic version. Once the customers get the basic version, the customers will start to feel like, hey, I don't think this basic version is good enough, or I think I should not have ads, I need ad free or something like that. So that you eventually would pay to get a upgraded version of their app. So this is the concept of freemium pricing. So followed by freemium pricing, there is one more um, pricing strategy that a lot of companies choose. Now this pricing strategy is done by companies who want to keep their brand positioning high, or who want to get immediate return on investment, who want to make sure that they get a lot of returns of investment in the initial weeks or months itself. An example for this is the moment a mobile phone is released, its price is, let's say, somewhere around 30,000. 2 or 3 months later, its price goes down by 2 or 3 thousand. So first 2 or 3 months they have priced it at the highest. They went into the market, they released a product or a service at the highest possible price which the customer can afford. So this is to make sure that everyone who wants it at that price will buy it. So once the organization has sold the product for the highest price, until no more customers will buy it, or until they realize, okay, um, the customers who want to buy it at the highest price have already bought it, there won't be any other customers buying it at this price, That is when they reduce the price a little to make sure that other customers will also get to buy it. Now, of course, the advantage is the company may get good returns on investment initially, but the disadvantage is a customer may not be happy with the product once they have bought it for the highest price. A customer's perception or a customer's opinion or a customer's view or faith in an organization may change because of this. So there's a huge advantage in getting immediate returns and a huge disadvantage as well by losing potential customer as well. So this is just another pricing strategy that we often see a lot. So, as I stated earlier, you can see in this case that technology products, particularly DVD players, video game console, and smartphones, typically are used like this because the moment a new product comes up, they want to people won't want to buy it. If it's a PlayStation 5, if it's a new phone, if it's a new iPhone, whatever it is, people would want to buy it at the earliest. So this is one method that companies go for to attract those customers. And once that product becomes a little older, other newer products start coming up, they start to reduce the price. But it will annoy the customers who have bought it at full price. And it will make sure that those customers will become dejected by buying at full price as well. So another method is called economy pricing. Now this method is often seen as ELDP, something that's called everyday low prices, something we see in marts like supermarts or big bazaars. All these marts that you have are where products are priced at the lowest possible price so that customers keep coming again and again. So generally this is done in goods which should be bought again and again by customers. Like, for example, if a mobile phone worth 50,000 is priced low at something like 20,000, customers will not be buying it again and again. They will only buy it once. But if a toothpaste which is priced at 25 rupees, let's say it is priced at something like 15 rupees, the customer would be buying it again and again often, which provides the organization with a certain benefit as well that customers will keep coming back. So this is one example of where we see everyday low pricing in a lot of shops. That is one example of economy pricing. The advantage is, of course, the sales will be a lot, but the disadvantage is you can only apply this for products that are lower price and which a customer keeps on buying repeatedly. So going ahead from this, the next kind of pricing is called psychological pricing. Now, psychological pricing is not a big difference in pricing in terms of customer perception as in a buying price, but it is a very small pricing that may make a customer feel that, hey, this product is not so costly. So, generally, what happens is whenever a person looks at a price, let's say something like $200, that looks like a very huge price. But when a person starts looking at $199.99, it does not look as huge as 200. To understand how, let us look at this concept. When we read 200, when we say 200 in our own minds, the first digit that goes through our mind is 2. So that is the first digit that gets registered psychologically in our mind. That this is a 3 digit number that starts with 2. Now, when I say this is a 3 digit number that starts with 1, even though it's just 1 cent or 1 paisa difference, or however you may call it, even though it's just a small difference, since our number thinks it's a 3 digit number that is starting with 1, this is a 3 digit number that's starting with 2, there's a big difference that we may see in this. So, this is just one example of psychological pricing. Now, for our session this week, I will be sharing a few case studies on psychological pricing that I need you guys to go through and come up with your own solutions. Followed by this, I will also answer for the case study and begin our next session in the coming week. So make sure you guys go through the case study. For any questions, any doubts, please do let me know in the group or personally, and I will be answering back to you guys on the same. Thank you guys.